And just like clockwork, yet another W for Donald Trump as he gets Justin Trudeau to completely shine his shoes, completely concede on the entire tariff regime. While Trump is promising to pause the tariffs for 1 month, just like he did with Mexico recently, he is getting a ton back in concessions from Canada. The battled prime minister, who basically has resigned already and is on his way out, and maybe at best will be a 51st state governor, Justin Trudeau, again, has completely shined the shoes of President Trump. Now, let's get into the details of the deal now. So, President Trump says the following: Canada has agreed to ensure we have a secure northern border and to finally end the deadly scourge of drugs like fentanyl that have been pouring into our country, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans while destroying their families and communities all across our country. Canada will implement their $1.3 billion border plan, and as per Prime Minister Trudeau, will be reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, and personnel, enhance coordination with our American partners, and increase resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border. In addition, Canada is making new commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar. We will list cartels as terrorists, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, launch a Canada US joint strike force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. I have also signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and fentanyl, and we will be backing it with a $200 million deal. As president, it is my responsibility to ensure the safety of all Americans, and I'm doing just that. I'm very pleased with this initial outcome, and the tariffs announced on Saturday will be paused for a 30-day period to see whether or not a final economic deal with Canada can be structured. Fairness for all! Exclamation point. So this is absolutely brilliant news because on a lot of fronts, this is a complete W. Keep in mind that to get such, okay, think about this, the context. When we think about a liberal crapshoot of a country, or a state rather, we would think of California under Newsom. Now, Canada is somehow worse than California. If you have any friends from Canada, I'm from Michigan originally. I know plenty of people from Canada, and they complain all the time. I mean, there's places that are completely taken over by. We complain about H-1B visas, okay, but what about like non-educated Indian immigration and from China? And Vancouver is not even recognizable to what it was, or compared to what it was 50 years ago. And so, I mean, from my understanding, it seems like Canada is in such a bad place economically, worse than us, believe it or not. And so, for them to be promising over $1.5 billion towards border enforcement is huge. I mean, if you compare the sizes of the relative economies, that's like if we spent, let's say, $30 billion on something that another country made us do. And this is all just because Trump was threatening a tariff, okay? Trump, in all honesty, might have actually have been bluffing about the tariff, but it worked, okay? Now think about this. Trump spent, what, $0 on threatening a tariff and then got in return, proportionate to our economy size, about $30 billion worth of investment towards security, whether that be through the stopping of illegal immigration through Canada, or also fentanyl. But also, people might be saying, well, immigration through Canada isn't really a problem. And that might be true. But keep in mind that a Canadian 20 years ago is different from the average Canadian nowadays. A lot of Canadians nowadays are surprisingly Indian, are people that don't really have a lot of money. And as food insecurity rises, in fact, in different cities in Canada now, they're legitimately having problems at the food pantries. And like, we complain about food stamps, but at least we're not starving. Canada is facing starvation very, very quickly. And so we might see an upsurge of immigration, whether that be legal attempts, but also asylees and all this sort of crap. And so, I mean, it could become a really big issue. And I think that Trump is actually sniping out a problem before it gets too awful. Now, mind you this, guys. Liberals are already spinning it in the Lincoln Project, which already had a predator scandal years ago and shouldn't really be on the airwaves or on the internet to begin with, but they have their own spin. And so let's kind of consult what it could possibly be. Because again, Donald Trump spent no taxpayer money on just threatening a tariff as a hypothetical and got Canada to invest over $1 billion in our own security, basically. And so they're going to try to spin this, and I don't know how the hell they're going to actually conceptualize a retort to Trump, but let's see what they say here. The Lincoln Project goes, don't let Trump spin you. Ironic. He backed down on the Mexican tariffs when the market dropped out. GOP electeds finding a backbone to complain, and the Wall Street Journal calling it the dumbest trade war in history. Trump blinked and embarrassed himself, plain and simple. Again, how is that even possible? Think about it. We didn't have tariffs to begin with against Canada that were prominent. He said, well, what if we do if you don't do X and Y? They do X, Y, and even Z. They throw some little extra on top when they're putting choppers on the Canadian border. I mean, we're literally going to see Canadian helicopters protecting North Dakota and whatever else. Could you even conceptualize that even 6 months ago? I mean, this is a very impressive feat by the president. And that's not even touching on Mexico, too, which is also an amazing feat by the president. Now, they're alleging this like conspiracy. They talked about QAnon years ago, and that was crazy. But I mean, this is like the I don't know blue anon. This is just complete cope. The Trump derangement syndrome is actually brilliant. It's delicious for me to just observe these people like a lion in the zoo starving to death because they're so desperate for an angle to attack the president, and they don't really have one. They're saying, oh, he what a Wall Street Journal article that I bet Trump hasn't even read was calling it the dumbest trade war in history. Okay, Trump probably didn't even see that headline. So to even pretend as if they have a point is asinine, but I just like laughing at them. Pardon me as I nerd out with you guys for a second, but just look at this. This is a poll done on global leaders' approval ratings. Okay, you see that Modi, Prime Minister Modi of India, has a positive 56 approval rating, which is kind of crazy. Dictator margins, one would say. Anyway, Claudia Sheinbaum, and we'll touch on Mexico as well, even though it's kind of old news at this point. She has an approval rating of 66 positive to 27 negative, which is a positive distribution of about 40%. That's pretty crazy. But I personally, I'm Mexican. I have family there. I'll be there actually next week for a birthday of my family members, but I know that Claudia Sheinbaum and even AMLO before that, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, socialist Bernie types, deplorable, hate him. Okay, they're very popular, and honestly, most Mexicans are relatively poor, so it makes sense that a socialist would actually be very favored. That being said, think about it. It's all the more impressive that Donald Trump could get somebody who has so much political leverage in her own right, insofar as being very I'm sorry, being very popular. I mean, about as popular as Obama was in 2009. All that goodwill, all that good grace. Okay, now that's gone. And by that I mean the leverage politically, the tariffs that he paused for just 1 month, by the way. She deployed 10,000 of her own troops, Mexican troops, which, by the way, the Mexican army is a mere fraction of our own, by the way. And so for her to deploy 10,000 to our border is basically like deploying 50,000 troops of American capacity or of our capacity. And so that's very exciting, honestly, because it's all of a sudden clear that Trump has so much leverage through just the mere threatening of tariffs. And he has a backing. It's not even like he's bluffing because we know that he's serious about levying tariffs. But also, if you look into his last administration, he also put in billions of dollars of tariffs on China, and it worked out great. Now, Trump's approval rating is about even in this survey. It seems like he's positive 6 to 8. It just depends. Also, kind of interesting that Poland has a leader named Donald Tusk. Pretty funny. Anyway, we'll look at Canada for a split second here. You'll see that Justin Trudeau is at a 23% approval rating to a 70% disapproval. That's a negative 47. How the hell are you that unpopular? Okay. He is super hated, and we're going to look at a landslide pretty soon in the next several months, probably, of the conservative Pierre Poilievre over Justin Trudeau, because Justin Trudeau has been president, or prime minister rather, for the better part of a decade, and has seen the complete collapse of Canada ever since COVID, but also preceding that with unfettered immigration, basically, for years, and economic management that is laughable, corruption that is palpable, and the guy's disgusting and revolting to begin with. Anyway, so vanilla dollar store Barack Obama of the North, Justin Trudeau, is clearly not in a position of power to negotiate. Another way to prove my point is that there were stunts made by the Canadians to say, we are going to tariff, sorry, we are going to tariff America back. You're going to tariff us, Donald Trump, by 25%. Well, guess what? We're going to get you on retaliatory tariffs, and we're going to take away American beer from Canada as if anybody cares. In fact, if you've never thought of Canada before, and by that I mean, like, assuming you live in the South or whatever, have you ever once considered Bud Light being consumed by a Canadian? No, because nobody cares, because Canada is a pissant. It's really a fly on the butt of an elephant, and that's America. Okay, so we don't care if you take away our Tito's. And by the way, it sounds Mexican anyhow. So anyhow, this is so lame. They're gonna go around and what? They're gonna postulate. They're gonna take our alcohol off of their shelves as if we're gonna care, as if Bud Light cares, as if Budweiser cares. I mean, it's just completely embarrassing, as if they like really have a say here. It's like when somebody like up and leaves the room, and you're like, okay, yeah, whatever, back to business. Also, this is just so pathetic. This letter saying effective Tuesday, February 4th. So it says, we are no longer selling liquor from the USA. Ask us about some great local and Canadian alternatives. Buddy, buddy, what? I mean, how are they great if you're supposing that the person that's a customer here is not already paying for the Canadian local beer? Like, if you're so good at this, then why aren't they already just using the Canadian stuff? And by the way, I'm not going to blame Canadians for not drinking their own liquor. Their stuff is so expensive. They have their own union called the LCBO, where people get paid a lot more than the minimum wage here to do basically what anybody at a Walmart does, and that's just sell alcohol at times. This is a pathetic excuse of a nationalist upsurge in Canada, and this is led by, I think, Doug Ford, whose brother was a crack addict or something. Anyway, the point being is that this is just so lame. Okay, come on. Now, this is just a great aside by Ready Go Politics, friend of the show. This is such a, I mean, this meme really encapsulates the energy that I believe in, okay? So we start at the top. Trump wants a foreign leader to do something, as that makes sense. Okay, Trump announces tariffs. Great. Left claims tariff doesn't work this time, okay? Leader caves and Trump gets what he wants. I mean, we've literally seen this happen 3 times in the past like week, okay? Remember, Colombia, they said they weren't taking in new immigrants. They weren't taking in, and by the way, Colombia has a new socialist president, so it makes sense. Okay, we have thousands of Colombians that are here illegally and that are criminals, obviously. So then Trump sends a modicum of them back, and then the Colombians don't receive them. And at that point, it's like, okay, what the hell? Like, that's violating ethics here. And so then Trump says, I will tariff you like the other countries if you don't let them in. And so then now they're letting them in, and now they're paying for their flights. Okay, so Donald Trump not only saves us the hassle and the millions of dollars of housing thousands of illegals here in America, but they're also going to pay for the flight there. Okay, that is leadership. You could say, oh, he's bluffing. Tariffs are so bad, but it's working. It's literally working. I don't know what you want me to say here. Tariffs were implemented under Trump that were unseen of, or rather unheard of, to that capacity in decades over in China. And it not only saved the steel industry in a major degree, but also did not cause inflation, gave us revenue, and the economy was very strong before COVID. So really, Donald Trump is completely vindicated in a way that a lot of libertarian economists and leftist idiots that hate the guy personally, I call them player haters of Donald Trump, they're looking very stupid. And so when Trump announces tariffs, you should be happy. I mean, we're getting a lot of stuff out of this. I mean, to really put it into bullet points to wrap up the video here, chat, Donald Trump has broken the will of the Mexican president, the Canadian prime minister, the Colombian whatever the hell it is, but I don't know what the position is there. Okay, he's gotten what he wanted thus far. I am extremely impressed by his administration, and I mean it's only what, like week 2. So, anyways, cheers to the victories. I'm not tired of winning yet, but I might be very soon. And so, anyways, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want more content, comment down below if you have any insights. I'll read them, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Adios.